Spirit of Life is proudly sponsored by Mattress Oz, mattressesareus.com.au.
Welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest again is Lasi Tanielu. She's a Y.W.A.M missionary. Hello, Lasi. Welcome back to the show. And I loved your story about how you grew in faith through being adopted out and how you overcame abandonment and feelings of neglect. That was very inspiring, and I'd love to hear more about your mission work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When did you start this calling to mission work?
Well, it's interesting because I never really planned to be a missionary to start off with, and I guess that's how God works sometimes. When you have pursue your own ambition, but then God can interrupt or intercept in a good way. So I started when I was 21, and I was working back in Samoa, and we had a director from Taiwan. He was a Y.W.A.M or with the missionary in Y.W.A.M. He came over to share about missions, and so I was sitting in that conference and just listening to him talking about the lost, having a heart for the lost, reaching out to people who've never heard the gospel before. And as he was sharing, I just started to shake, really, and I felt my heart was about to pop out, and I had no idea what was going on. And at that moment, I had this vision again when I was 17, where I clearly saw Jesus looking at me, and I really knew that's him calling me. So I had this vision again at this time when this guy was talking. So I knew God was trying to tell me something then, and I've always had a heart to travel and get out of Samoa because it was too small. And so at this moment, I just knew that God is telling me there's something bigger than just working and earning money. And so I went home that day when I was just confirmed in my spirit that I think God is calling me to be a missionary. So I went home and I just basically tell my parents that I'm going to be a missionary, which was a foreign language to my parents. So the first thing they said was, no, there's no way. You're not going anywhere. Yeah, so it took a while, but finally they couldn't hold me back. So I left home and came out to do missions.
And are your parents, who are adopted parents, are they Christians?
Yes. Yeah, they're Christians in a very traditional way where, find it hard to understand when you talk to them about missions, because back home it's all about I think the faith,
cultural, getting married, doing all this normal things.
Yeah, that's like how we are, how we see the Christian faith. It's just, go to church, be good, and making sure that you're not breaking the commandments, in that kind of sense. So when I talk to them about going out into the world and telling people about Jesus, it's like, what?
Yeah.
So
that was very challenging. And when you said vision, is it like you're closing your eyes and you see something of God, or is it like before your eyes, as much as you're watching me, that you knew that it was like a vision? What is a vision?
I think it's the eyes of my spirit. I think that's what I saw, because I can still see it now. But I don't think I could open my eyes and I see it in front of me. I think it was more of the eyes of my spirit that I saw it very clearly. And I have that several times in my life, as I was even as a little girl, probably at 6 or 7, I had those kind of visions, which I kept to myself for a long time. And then when I was 17 again, I had a similar vision. And then I was 21 and I had it again. So I keep getting these visions from God, and but I think it was more of the eyes of my spirit that sees it.
And did you have anyone confirm this vision, or did you feel like this was me and I just have to do this?
Yeah, I think it was more of me because it brought me peace. It gave so much peace to me. And I think it really allowed me to give me courage to make a decision. And because every time I have these visions, for some reason, I can make a decision with such courage, and not like feeling double-minded or unsure about it. And every time I make those decisions, I know it, it takes me to it opens the door into the other part of what God has for me.
That's fantastic. And did your friends too and your family try to waver you?
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. I remember when I start telling my friends that I was going to be a missionary, and they start laughing. They're like, what? What are you going to be? So it was just this weird, because nobody, young people, they don't really go out and do that, or it's very rare. So.
And you were 21 then too.
Yeah, which is not very young to me. It wasn't that young, but I think in that age, everyone is pursuing
their own things.
Yeah, what I want to do, what do I want to become, and where do I want to get from here. So thinking about God, it's nothing. I think many young people don't think about God much at that stage.
Did they know that you had a strong faith in God?
Yeah, I think so, because they always treated me different. They knew that I was different from them. For example, when they start swearing and I'm there, they're kind of like, oh, sorry, Lasi. Which I didn't like at the time, because they kind of think, oh, you're so holy, or something like that. But I think they all knew that I was quite serious in my relationship with God.
Yes, and so why did you choose Y.W.A.M?
Why did you choose Y.W.A.M? Because I didn't know any other missionary organization. And because of my job, my boss was from Y.W.A.M. So I got to know a little bit more about Y.W.A.M. And I got to see them. They do a lot of international mission trips. And I loved traveling. So that fit me very well. I love going into different cultures and different people. And I think the motto or the theme of Y.W.A.M caught my eye, which was to know God and to make Him known. So,
yes, it's very simple but very good.
Yes.
With that note, we need to go for a break now, but that was really interesting.
Yeah.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Lasi Tanielu. She's a Y.W.A.M youth missionary. Hello, Lasi. Welcome back to the program, and it's been great how you've been sharing about your faith journey last week and now your work in Y.W.A.M. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us more about Y.W.A.M, how it began and what mission work you do?
Yeah, sure. So Y.W.A.M, or Youth with Mission, is an interdenominational organization. So it's all different churches coming together with one goal of reaching the world. Like we take it from Mark 15:16 or Mark 16:15. Go out into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So that's where Y.W.A.M came from. And so we have three strands. So we have evangelism, we have training, and we have mercy ministries. So that's how Y.W.A.M kind of break out into reaching the gospel. So in training, we run training schools, discipleship training schools, and all different kinds of schools on missions. We have a university that basically covers every field or every spheres of society, because we want to train up young people into their passion and their God-given gifts so they can go out and reach the world, whether using photography, dancing, arts, sports, all these different kinds. We encourage young people for that. And then we have evangelism, which is basically we do all sorts kinds of ways to reach, whether it's random acts of kindness or going out on the streets and talking to people, or running different programs or seminars that will just, for evangelism, telling people about God. And then we have mercy ministries where we have a ship in Australia where we go into PNG giving free dentistry work to the people there and giving out toothpaste. And so we also have work with human traffic, not for sale. For example, one of those Y.W.A.M partner with that, stopping human trafficking in the world, prostitution. So we run all these kinds of programs, reaching out on the streets. We run homeless ministries where we go out to give food and just fellowship with the people there, just talking and understanding their pain and pray with them. So that's kind of like a quick, brief view of what Y.W.A.M does. So it's all different kinds, but those are the three areas that we kind of break into reaching people in need and telling people about God.
Yeah, what a witness, especially as a young adult doing this.
Yes, and our goal as well is to inspire other young people in the faith, to rise up, and because we believe God is wanting every person to go out and spread the gospel. Imagine if every person who believes Jesus can be active in their faith and be involved in what's going on in the world. I think we will reach the ends of the earth.
Definitely. And what area are you focused in? What ministry?
Yeah, so I'm mainly in training. My heart is for discipleship. I love, my passion is really, seeing young people coming to believe in themselves, like knowing who they are in Christ, and discover what their talents and what their giftings are and pursue that, so they can live out their God-given destiny, and then they can inspire other people and other young people and equip them.
That's fantastic.
That's my heart. Yeah.
And how do you think, a lot of parents these days think, the youth, they don't come to God, especially in Australia. How would a Christian parent help a young adult come closer to God?
Well, I think first of all, pray. There's power in prayer. And I hear a lot of stories about parents who pray, years and years for their parents to come to the Lord, and they see them come later on, their late 20s or mid 20s, they always see breakthrough. So pray for them. And I think at the same time, I think it's good for parents to, understand their kids and where they're coming from, because in this generation, there are so many teachers everywhere. You see the media, technology, everything is teaching them, but I think they just need someone to listen to them and to understand them and where they're coming from. So I think for parents to take that time, not just giving them all advices and what to do and what not to do, but just listen to them and encourage them in that. And then of course, guide them, giving them positive feedback and let them see positive and negative side of them making decisions.
Yeah, help them in their decision making.
Yeah, and help them in that and guide them in that, get them to see that. But very important for the children to know that their parents actually listen and take time and wanting to understand them.
Yes, it's interesting because you say it's almost asking questions. When you have to see the pros and cons, it's really asking questions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Rather than just, giving them, this is what's going to happen, or this is not what you should do, or this is not what you should do.
I think sometimes get anxious and they start just throwing out advice there.
And I can understand that. But I think, if you really want your kids to walk in that path, or you want them to reach, for them to come to know the Lord, I guess those are some of the key things to, to look into and walk with their children.
Yeah, and it's great because you're actually helping to form them. And I suppose being a young person, would you say that they're more willing to hear from a young person?
Yeah, I guess so. I think so. I think, they say young people respond more to when they see other young people. So yeah, I do find that as well. But I think even in what we do, we encourage them in their relationship with their parents. How it's very important to honor their parents. And so even for them to take that time to listen to their parents. And so if the parents themselves are educated to, even listen to their children and hear them out, I think, both will get to that place where they can not only just relationship with themselves, but they will see them come to know the Lord and follow God.
Yeah, and that's great that you are teaching them to listen to their parents, because some things you see in the media, it sort of incites quite rebellion into their parents.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that we have to be very careful with. Is like all these voices are telling the children what to do. So parents also need to be strong and really look closely to walking with their children.
And not giving in sometimes to the children, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that. We're going to go for a break now. You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Lasi Tanielu. She's a Y.W.A.M missionary, and she's been sharing her faith and her journey in ministry. Lasi, how do you deal with resistance to, spreading the faith? And as you know, things like that we hear on the TV, like Christians being beheaded in some countries, like, I don't know, Syria, or maybe it's Iran and things like that, or Iraq. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about my facts, but how do they teach you in Y.W.A.M how to deal with persecution or resistance?
Well, I think to answer the first part from where we're at, and for example, sometimes we go on the streets to talk to people about Jesus, and of course you always get, rejection from somebody, or, oh, I'm not interested, which it affects you in some way. But I think I've learned not to take it personal, and I guess for us, it's just learning to be obedient. That's the important thing, that we know that we're called to go and just to tell people about Jesus or share the love. And all we need to do is to be obedient, and the response, we can't control that. And so it's only God and the Holy Spirit that can, plant that seed. So if we get rejected, if we get neglected by people, we just move on to the next thing.
Or sometimes you'll get teased or taunted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it does affect, but then we learn to just talk that through, and come to that place of just praying for one another and knowing that whether we're obedient to God, and that's all it matters to us.
So you just pray with each other. You don't respond to them if they attack you?
No, because sometimes it doesn't get anywhere. If you come to an argument with someone, you don't really get anywhere. So we just, thank that person. We move on to the next person.
Love and turn the other cheek?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think a lot of people look at your response as well. It get tested. Let's see if this person actually believes what they talk about. And so our response and our reaction can also tell the world, okay, you don't really believe what you talk, but, you just lovingly turn away and bless that person and you move on. And I think for the second part with the persecution that's going on, for us in Y.W.A.M, it's a place where it really pushes us to prayer and to intercession, because intercession is another huge value in Y.W.A.M. So we do intercession 3 hours a week. So that's where we go into prayer for the Christian sisters and brothers that are in the world, and also just understanding from scriptures what's going on, and that helps us to deal with that and to understand what's going on. But I guess our response is praying, just praying for them, that God will intervene, give grace and strength.
So you not only pray for your own missions, you pray for a worldwide mission? Yeah,
definitely. I think intercession as our value, we pray on behalf of the world.
Wow.
And because we're a mission out there, so all those times it's not praying for ourselves. We're praying for the nations. We're praying for what's going on in the world. We're praying for, social issues, and so it's good.
So there's so much to pray for. Do you be led by God to what areas to pray for? 'Cause you could
Definitely.
be there for hours. I
Yeah, because one of our value too is hearing God's voice. So every time we come to pray, even though we know what's going on, but we want to get God's heart. So we come and wait on God. What is it specifically, how He wants us to pray, if there is any prophetic thing that He wants us to do, and we just move with that.
So you feel, when you say prophetic, is it inspirational, like what do you feel God is saying?
Yeah, like, something, I don't know, physical that someone felt, we feel like we need to get up and walk around and, as that prophetic act that God is breaking down the walls, or God is bringing the light, or, like things like that. We do those certain things to prophetically proclaim that God has already overcome or has broken the walls over something that's happening.
So Lauren Cunningham is your founder, is
That's
that right? And so he's very strong on hearing God's voice and being obedient.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's quite amazing in that. And so he set out those foundations for Y.W.A.M. because, when God gave him the vision as well, back in the 1960s, Lauren had learned to always asking God. He wrote a book, Is That Really You, God? That's what it's called. And so if you have a chance, you can read that. It's all about him listening to what God was saying and be able to just walk that out day by day and just being obedient to that voice.
And what if you hear God wrong?
Well, yeah, we do get it wrong sometimes, but we learn as well from it. And I think hearing God's voice is a skill. The more you do it, the more you get better at it. And I think when we get it wrong sometimes, we just repent, ask for forgiveness, and, we're not perfect.
Yes.
But just being able to identify that and
Do you feel a peace in your heart? Is that how you measure?
Yeah, definitely. Peace, and then also your leaders confirming it, the importance of, accountability, of you hear something, you go to your leaders, ask if this, can you pray on this and tell me if this is God? So I think even bringing it out to a bigger group helps to confirm it.
That's fantastic, being open.
Yeah, it took me some time to learn that, but I managed now, and I find it's a lot lighter and a lot easier.
Fantastic.
When I bring it there.
And how do you support the mission work?
I have a couple of friends who's been committing to support me financially over the years. So some of them, I met all of them in Y.W.A.M. So they came to do discipleship school, and I staff or led their schools, and they go back and they want to support me because they believe in what I'm doing. And so, yeah.
That's wonderful.
And then sometimes do a bit of fundraising to help. It's always a challenge financially because we always don't know where it's going to come from, and we have to raise our own airfares, our own fees. But somewhere, somehow, God always come through.
I'm sure myself and the audience are very inspired by your work. And God bless you, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Join us again next week. Goodbye, and God bless you.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Spirit of Life was proudly sponsored by Mattress Oz, mattressesaras.com.au.